this is the dumbest way to make a living. Like, being in the restaurant business is like the silliest way to make a living.
Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA, and I'm your host, Andre Natera. Today's guests are Todd Duplechan and Jessica Maher of Lenoir in Austin, Texas, one of the city's most legendary restaurants. We're going to talk about coming up in some of the toughest New York kitchens, what actually makes a great cook, and we're going to debate some of the best cookbooks every chef should own. If you want to get better, this one's for you. Stay tuned.
Well, my first day in New York, coming into work at the Danube to trail stage at the Danube, which is something that I had actually never done before. Every place that I had ever gotten a job, you get an application, you fill out the application, you do. They either hire you or they don't. So this was a whole new process for me coming in, and it was also Maltinis, which is like a type of stove, right? Mm-hmm. Very nice stoves. The kitchen was upstairs, downstairs, really beautiful. The dining room was stunning, and the food was really great. I have always throughout my career gotten a job somewhere, worked my way up, quit, got a job at a lower position at a better restaurant. And so this was kind of the pinnacle of that, doing that incrementally over my career. And I got there, and I was young and cocky still, fine, and thought I could do it. And I did end up doing it and getting the job and was impressed, but I had never worked for a chef from Europe before. Very different standards, very different ways of being in the kitchen. And I came there, this was 2001, 2002, somewhere in there.
It was maybe 2003, 2002 or 2003, because 2001 was 9/11.
Yeah, so it was after that. So I came in, I moved there from the Caribbean, and I was working in hotels in the Caribbean. And
I'm imagining Caribbean island life is much different from New York City life.
Island life is very, even working for like a US based corporation and stuff, everything's very different down there and very slow. And that's what I was trying to get away from, was I wanted a more serious place. So I really stepped in it over there. So I come in, things are very precise. The chef is intense, but also very, what would you say? He was very dismissive of everyone. And he instantly
emotional, but he had it all.
Yeah.
He had it all.
So then
what do you mean he had it all?
He had the full range of emotions.
Oh,
from intensity and anger and like wanting to joke around and like he seemed passionate, like a very passionate person.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And so we proceeded to prep, and it was a 14-hour day, 14-hour stage, whatever it was, and make up to that point the best, most amazing food I had ever seen in person. And then throughout the process, I realized, like, I came in with my kit of stuff, and then I looked at the kit that other people had, because I'm a stuff guy. Like, I like tools a lot.
Did you have a big toolbox?
I had a knife roll.
No, you had a Samsonite.
I had
Samsonite briefcase that he had outfitted with wood on the inside to hold his knives.
Yeah, because I had apprenticed
dorky,
in a sushi for sushi for a number of years. And so like the Japanese guys had those super cool boxes that held all their knives. Uh-huh. Well, I didn't have access to that. So I just, like I've done so many times in my career, I was like, I'm just going to build my own. Mm-hmm. So I got like one of those suitcases that would be in the movie that the money was in, like one of those metal clad suitcases that made from Samsonite, and cut out of mahogany and put felt in it, and it held all my knives perfectly and had my spoons and stuff like that. But I realized real quick that the kit that these guys were rolling with, I was like, there's stuff in there that I've never seen before. Like they got some cool stuff in there. So I made it through. The chef instantly gave me the nickname Texana, because I guess in German, Texana means somebody that's from Texas. I don't know.
He never bothered to find out.
He never bothered to find out.
We'll verify that.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So And then what the coolest part of the whole process was, normally they would sit you down in the dining room and feed you, right? If they were going to hire you. A lot of the times they'd just be like, yeah, see ya. So they were like, they offered me a job, and then they said, hey, we'd love for you to sit in the dining room. And me also being maybe just fresh off the boat and not realizing, I came in my chef gear. Like, I didn't come with a change of clothes or any of that stuff. And so they were like, you're not going in the dining room wearing that. Did you bring a change of clothes? And I was like, no, I didn't. And so they were like, well, just sit here at the end of the pass on a glass rack, and we'll just feed you. And they just fed me like 12 courses right there. The chef, which never happened. The chef wasn't going out in the dining room for anything. And he was cooking the stuff, giving it to me. I was eating it. He was explaining it to me. And of course he's like, yeah, it's good, right? You know, no big deal for him. And I'm basically having, up to that point, the best meal of my life, and probably still one of the best meals of my life because of what it was, right? The whole process. So yeah, that was my introduction to cooking in New York.
Did you all meet there?
Yeah.
Yeah. We met at, she worked at Bouley, which was next door.
Yeah.
And this was the Danube.
But both of them were owned by Bouley, and we shared both restaurants shared a locker room. So I was in and out of the Danube all the time, and that's how we met. And we also, like, the crew of people from the Danube who I really bonded with, I liked them a lot, would go to a bar called the Reed Street Pub around the corner, and that's where we would go. And then I would just notice him. Maybe had said hi a couple of times, but he was, as he still is, sort of like looking off aloof, not quite engaged with what everybody else was doing. But he would occasionally interject a funny comment, and I was impressed.
You said something. You said something the other day where you said he's the best cook you know.
Oh yeah.
I'm paraphrasing. You said something along that.
Yeah, he's the best cook I know still. I mean, he can cook anything. He can build flavors out of anything that we have around and make something so delicious. I don't think I've ever had anything that you've made and not thought it was really delicious. And our kids too are spoiled, but I would say, like, they're constantly like,
with that statement, because I think it's an important subject in conversation for today. What do you think makes a good cook? And I'm curious both your thoughts on that, like, because in today's world, social media, it's a gift and a curse, right? Because you see all these things, you get all these ideas, but it's like you're trying to ferment strawberry tops before you know how to brunoise. You know what I mean? Like, we're seeing all this interesting stuff, but like, hey, what about, do you know how to braise properly? What does it mean to be a good cook? And when you say that about him, what do you think it means today, and why do you think he's different?
I think, I mean, I'm an adequate cook and I'm an okay pastry person, but being around a lot of really stellar cooks, I would say that what sets him apart is that it's taking the time to build flavor through processes and not trying to add stuff to it. So it might be like how something's cooked. Maybe it starts off on the fire and then goes into the oven, and there's some, elements of time, salt, appropriate seasoning, but care and thought and not rushing the process. And cooking takes a lot of time. I mean, every night that I cook at home, like, I wish this would go a little bit faster, which I think is why a lot of people just don't cook for themselves. But I think, to be a really great cook, you have to be a student of different processes of cooking. So you have to know how to braise and roast and grill, and you have to know how the fire affects different cuts or different vegetables, or you have to not rush it, because rushing it is where you only, like, scratch the surface of what makes something delicious.
I was thinking about this when I was driving in, because I'm not active as a chef anymore. So I cooked for myself the other day. I was like, it's self-date. I'm gonna take myself on a date. And I went to the store and I made a spaghetti sauce. Not a spaghetti sauce, like a meatballs.
Sauce.
Yeah, red sauce with meatballs, and had some Italian sausage in there, and I braised some short ribs, and it's just making this, and it was delicious. And then I started thinking, like, the only knife cuts really that went into that was the garlic and the onions, because everything else was just passata and, you know, some crushed tomatoes in a can, some basil that I'm picking and I'm throwing it in there. But I was like, the only real knife cuts were the onion. And I started thinking about what makes a good cook. There's so much that goes into cooking, because I think about like Italian grandmothers or Mexican grandmothers that probably don't have the best knife skills. You know, like
or a sharp knife.
right.
They definitely
Or,
don't have a
you
sharp
see these
knife.
people that are cutting on their
Into
hand.
their hands.
Yeah.
My mom does
But
that.
they make something that's delicious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
their food is delicious, right? But you could pick apart their technique. It's not proper technique. And then you have other people that have so much finesse. You know, they could tourne everything, and they could flute the mushroom, and the brunoise is perfect. And then you taste something and it's soulless, right? So I started thinking, like, what really makes a good cook? Because it's not such a direct answer, and I'm not saying we're going to solve it today, but it's food for thought.
Well, so my mom and my grandmother are both excellent cooks. My grandmother's still alive. And I think for both of them, well, for my grandmother, it starts with the ingredients because she was growing a lot of the ingredients. But she and my mom both take a lot of time to cook things. I mean, they'll devote hours to making food, and they might start the day before, you know, like you're told to do. You know, this sort of thing needs to rest overnight to find itself in the refrigerator, you know. I think really good food takes a lot more time than the quick and easy meals. That, don't get me wrong, I love the New York Times cooking app, but everything now is like how to make a meal in 30 minutes. And if you really want to have excellent food, it takes a lot longer than 30 minutes to make it. So, you know, start with good ingredients and then take time and maybe plan out what you're going to make, you know.
Especially at home,
Yeah.
planning. So what I used to do, we opened a bar recently, so I haven't had a ton of time.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But I would spend half of a morning, like up until noon, I would go into the refrigerator and be like, okay, I'm going to turn all of this into food for the week.
Yeah.
And just start just like I was at work. Like I got the stove out, everything, the oven's running. I got the grill going outside. And it's just like, I'm just going to prep all this stuff in the next 4 hours. And then you can say, these things are done. This tomato sauce is finished. It can be put on pasta. This thing needs to be braised. It's seasoned and seared and roasted. It needs to be braised tonight or tomorrow, but it's ready to roll. And I would just treat it like work and prep it out, and then be like, you got 5 days worth of food here. And
Which
then
we're
also
so grateful for, because it makes life a lot easier.
yeah,
when
so then
there's
you
food
can
ready to
really
go.
turn it into a 30-minute meal or a 10-minute meal. Because it's like, hey, we have this thing that is, we need to boil pasta, and we have pasta sauce that's good and not out of a can. Or we have this, braised short rib. We just got to warm it up and make mashed potatoes or whatever it is, right? So
Okay, well, the other thing that I would like to say, though, it's easy for you to be a good cook now because you've had so much experience. And I think the other thing that makes a good cook is time. It just takes a lot of time and experience. And when I was starting out, because I didn't go to culinary school, I apprenticed. I think that I was really nervous about showing my naivete and not wanting to come off like an idiot in front of like people who I respected and who were also European and seemed very, just by the nature of being European, seemed more knowledgeable than I was. And I think that you have to be willing to spend some time on your own. Like if you're a professional cook, you need to be cooking at home as well. Like you need to spend some time on your own learning, either through books or and people don't learn through books anymore, but maybe learning through videos, like for just practicing, trying cooking for people and don't be afraid to make a mistake and put yourself out there.
You said something that just, I hate to go into a different tangent, but I was in a group chat the other day, the chef group chat that I'm in, and someone asked the question, what are like your go-to 2 or 3 cookbooks because they had to go somewhere. They're doing the top secret thing, and so they could only take a couple of cookbooks, right? They're like, "What are your?"
Is it a desert island?
Yeah, it's a desert island. I'll say that. And so they could only take a couple of cookbooks. So all the chefs in the chat are saying, these are the books that I would take on a desert island if I would go.
I love this game. I'm like, I love this game.
And so I was like, what do I? And and there was a lot of really good recommendations in there.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about like, what are the 2 that I've earmarked the most?
Yeah.
Like for me. I'm curious what you all do. And the reason I'm asking is because the store that you guys used to have was
we had
incredible.
a lot of cookbooks.
You had so many. It was
Yeah.
it was, and not just so many, but there was like the obscure ones that no one's ever seen.
Yeah.
So the 2 that I have at home that I probably have earmarked the most is Alain Ducasse's big, thick Grand Livre de Cuisine. I love that book. And it's like tabbed up. The other one that I have used to be the French Laundry cookbook. I used to have it tabbed up, but now I think it's the French Laundry per se, because I think it's a little bit more relevant now. They've updated, blanching and, hydrocolloids and things like that. So I'm like, those are probably the 2 that I think for me. And then I would maybe throw in a third, like Jacques Pépin's La Technique, La Méthode. Those would be like, okay, I can only take 3 with me and I need to build from 0. That's what I'm taking. I'm curious what you guys think.
My cookbooks, my very first cookbook was Mastering the Art of French Cooking by Julia Childs. My grandmother gave it to me, and I taught myself how to cook out of that book because I didn't go to culinary school. So I was like teaching myself how to make an aioli by hand and how to like make sauces, which I think that they don't give sauces to just anybody at restaurants, I mean, sometimes you have to, but it's like, that's a process that is delicate, especially if it's a multi-day process. That's my favorite because it's nostalgic for me. And I think it's useful. It doesn't have big glossy pictures or anything, and it definitely takes some reading and rereading. But then I used to love this book by Suzanne Goin, Sunday Suppers at Lucques. And the reason why I loved it is because it's a seasonal cookbook, and it kind of talks about building a menu. And so when I would look in it, it would always be for inspiration, trying to think about, especially with desserts, like what seasonal desserts am I not thinking of? Like how to use the fruits that are in season, or think about building a meal. There's another book that we have that's Paul Bertolli's.
Don't steal my book.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna let that be Todd's, but it's similar in that it's like about seasonal menu building, like if you're having a dinner party or something. And I definitely have. There was one other book that Todd gave me. I cannot remember the name of it, but it was like the chef's something. And it was a series of chefs that each were assigned sort of a technique. And they're all like masters of their fields in whatever technique it was. No, not cocoa. It's called the chef. We don't have it anymore. It's called the chef's something.
The cocoa book is good, by the way.
The cocoa book is
it's
great,
really
and
good,
it's similar to that, but it's the chef's something. I'm going to look it up and figure it out what it was. But it was what you want, the side-by-side photos of like step by step of what it looks like to do this one particular thing. And I thought it was, and they were all like kind of hard tasks, so it was nice to see those photos.
I used to hate those. It's like, here's how you do a perfect tournée. Step 1, step 2.
Well, these were more dishes that you could imagine making, but like not so fussy. Anyway.
Certainly the Paul Bertolli book, Cooking by Hand, because I had been
Have
cooking
you seen that book?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd been
gosh, I love
cooking
that
for a
book so
long
much.
time, and I was starting to get more and more into, as it was just a change in scenery for everybody. There was a lot more about farm to table stuff, and he was the Chez Panisse chef for a while. And there's also like a charcuterie section in there and a pasta making section, but it's all based on like starting from the thing. Like we're going to make pasta, but first we're going to take the grains and we're going to mill them, and then we're going to make pasta from it. And so the process, and the funny thing is, it's basically an Italian cooking book, and I don't cook Italian food, and I've never worked in an Italian restaurant really, but the process is what I gleaned from it. And so thinking about where everything comes from down to the original part of it. And that's really how I think about cooking now. And what became my style was, we can buy that, right? We can buy anything, but can we make it? Can we strip it back and back and back and back until we get to the original thing, whether it's a grain of rice or whether it's a plant or whatever. And can we take our own process to get to something similar, or, it becomes a challenge at that point. And that's the fun part for me about being a real farm to table restaurant, is that, okay, you can be a farm to table restaurant that's like, we got these chickens from a farm and we opened up cans to do everything else, and we don't know where those cans are from. Or you can say, we're starting from, we're going to make the miso that we're glazing this piece of fish the whole way. And then you can say how much is too much and not enough, because we certainly open cans at our restaurant and have bottles of stuff too, right?
30 years in the kitchen, 7 books, 200 podcast episodes, all distilled into a 5-minute daily leadership practice. It's called Lead Like a Chef. Most people who get promoted quit the industry within 2 years, not because they can't cook, but because no one taught them how to lead. I built an app that does. Lead Like a Chef. Take the free 2-minute quiz that tells you exactly where you stand. Go to studio.com/Andre. Link is in the show notes.
But understanding the process of that, what came from that book, thinking about plants, it's like, as a plant is going through its growing process, what do you do to it? Because you have seasons of things, and when you're buying tomatoes at the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, and the end of the season, they're different things. And how to think about each one of those things in its moment and go, I'm going to use this in this way, I'm going to use this one that way, and I'm going to use this one in the final way. And that's where, like, I really loved the French Laundry book, but it didn't resonate for me because I'm not looking for, and this is what I think TK was always looking for, is like, I want the exact same thing over from my producers. I want exact same tomato. I always heard these stories about they measured all their tomatoes when they came in because they had to be exactly the same, and if there was any deviation, and I don't want that. I feel like I'm a lot more of a messy cook. I enjoy looking at the whatever it is and trying to create from that thing, let that thing dictate what we're doing. And then the other book is one that's called Happy in the Kitchen. It's Michel Richard.
Yeah, great book. He has a
great
recipe in there that, it's funny, I tweeted this today, I think. I said, every chef out there has most likely copied or plagiarized a dish and said they didn't. Like, no, I invented that. Yeah. And I know I'm guilty of that, like a lot of Trotter's and Keller's books early on in my career. But that potato risotto that he did in that book, where he
dice them up.
Yeah, I definitely impressed everyone that I was working with at the time and said, look what I invented. Behind the books in open season.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the first cookbooks where you're really like, oh, there's shortcuts to get to things that can help make your life easier. It doesn't have to all be all these, drawn out processes. Like you can get there in other ways.
Yeah, and
that Michel Richard book is excellent.
I love it because he's
excellent.
a pastry chef, right? And became a savory chef, and you could tell he was bringing a lot of that pastry creativity or just processes into the savory world, where it's like, no, why can't you just do this to make that round shape?
Do you remember he had a technique, I think, where he was coating grapes in chocolate and then dusting with cocoa powder? No. I'm not sure if it was in that book, or maybe I'm pretty sure it's a Michel Richard technique, where it's like how to make grape truffles, like the hack. So you just get grapes, pour melted chocolate, shake it, and then coat them in cocoa powder, and they look like
perfect little truffles,
but they're grapes inside. I was like, that was brilliant. I remember when I saw that, I was like,
that's it, and that's what I got from that book. Not necessarily, doing the exact thing, but I did some of the same things that you did from that book. But understanding that the creative process is the creative process. You can take it in any direction that you want. And I'm not a chef that's trying to perfect anything. I'm not trying to be like, like the guys in the barbecue world that come to work and they're like, I'm trying to make the same exact thing every single day with all this chaos happening with fire and stuff like that. That's its own amazing skill set, and I respect those dudes. What they're doing is unbelievable. I know that's not me. I don't even want to do that.
I definitely want to do that.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's like a pastry, mostly a pastry mindset. I just want to do the same thing well every time. I want it to be just exactly the same.
Was that your 3 books that you said?
Oh, there were 3 books?
Well, no, it could be 2. I'm just curious.
You know what books I really love that I think both of us love? We don't cook out of them, but we like looking at them, are those Joe Beef cookbooks.
Those are great.
Yeah.
I think they're just fun.
I would
They're
say
different. They're unique to themselves.
Yeah.
They're obviously very creative, but the food looks amazing.
Are you the Alpide de Cochon?
Yeah.
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 It's just Joe Beef, the 2 Joe Beef cookbooks. I guess is Joe Beef the restaurant, or is that
Joe Beef is the restaurant. There's another restaurant
that they own.
The Sugar
right?
Shack cookbook, is that what it is?
the Sugar Shack cookbook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are great books. I don't want to get off on a cookbook.
So when we closed our store, we still we already had a huge amassed cookbook collection, and then we still had some. Like over time, we just ended up giving a bunch of them away, but we have a whole wall still of cookbooks, and it's like a timestamp, you know, like, are we even looking at these? So every once in a while we pull them out. I love looking at them. I almost never cook from cookbooks anymore.
No, that's
Maybe we
thing
should.
probably
should.
What's the?
What's the point is
It's
that
not
there's
the-
stuff that
I love
we're
looking
like,
at cookbooks. That'll be my 3rd cookbook. I had a cookbook that's called the Gun Club Cookbook. That there's a place in the East Coast at some point in the 30s or 40s. It was the Gun Club. It was a shooting club. It was a men's club. It was for shooting, and they had a bar and a restaurant, and it was all run by men. And they created this cookbook, and it's just a bunch of really old dinner series that they put on, and the recipes are super simple. But I love looking at old cookbooks. So basically it's just saying like really old cookbooks that show us how people used to cook and eat, because there's something inspiring about how people and this is why I think Joe Beef works. It's like it feels like it's older than it is.
Yes.
It feels like it's connected to a
hunting
different
and
time.
fishing
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It's very like from the earth sort of feeling.
Yeah.
There's a chef, Sam Jett. He's a chef in Nashville. He has, they have like a little library collection, and he has what I think maybe the holy grail of hard to find cookbooks is the French, great French chefs. They're white books. And it's like you have the Pierre Gagnaire, the Joel Robuchon, the Lan Ducasse.
It's a series.
It's a series.
Oh, that's cool.
And I don't know. There's like a dozen of them. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't seen
No,
those.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's just like he has them, and I'm like, where can we get that? Yeah, I love that period of time of cooking, and you know, when it was still it was all by hand, and it was all recipes, and it was all books, and it was shared, and it wasn't so quick like it is today with the internet. And we had to learn the craft. You had to work under someone that was going to teach you. I feel like we've lost a little bit of that that learning. Like we were talking earlier, is like you could jump on Instagram right now, and you could see the most beautiful dish at the latest restaurant in Copenhagen. But your brunoise sucks still. Like you still haven't figured out how to saute correctly. But you're wanting to do all this advanced stuff. And I think, going back to, it was long, we got on the cookbook rant, but going back to what we were talking about earlier is when you think about what makes a good cook, I want to ask you specifically, like if you're giving someone advice, like as they're climbing the ladder, what do those layers look like? And before you go, I'll share this story with you. A text that I got today from a very good chef, and they were pretty pissed. They said that one of their cooks asked for a couple of, like, a busy service. They're like, we need to take off this day because there's an influencer that's doing a dinner, and I want to help them with their pop-up. and the chef, who's like a legit James Beard, like legit chef, and they're frustrated. And they're like, what are they going to teach you? Like lighting? how to take photos? Like, you're not going to learn food costs. You're not going to learn how to set your station. You're not going to learn how to butcher a fish. You're not going to learn anything. Like, no, you're doing it for clout. Let's call it what it is. You're doing that strictly for clout. And so, going back to my question that I wanted to ask you is, how do you guide a cook from, and I'm going to give you plenty of time to answer this. How do you guide a cook from cook to chef? And what does that process look like?
The first part of the process is getting them to align with how you're going to show them, right? So whenever people start with us, we have like the cook's rules, And everybody that starts with us, we have very few people that have started from nothing. But so when they're coming in with their own ideas and their own good habits and bad habits. So day one, we give them, this is how it's going to run here. And it's very detailed as far as this is where everything is located. This is what is expected from your setup of your station. These are the tools you're expected to have when you start. This is how, whenever you label something, this is how we expect you to label it, just so that way we're all starting from the same square one, right? So we go through that line by line with that person. We walk them around. We talk to them about, our kitchen is extremely small, so it's a short walk, but this is where these things live. This is how, and you get a lot of yeah, because people have worked before and they get it. And it's like, no, I need you to stop, and I need you to pay attention to what I'm saying, because I'm going to tell you, this is what we're doing here. And I'm a big why person. That's why I feel like I became a good cook, because I was always focused on the why. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? Instead of just being like, this is the way you do it. I was always trying to figure out, why is this the way we do it? What's the explanation? What's the bigger meaning? And so in this process of explaining things to people, I'm giving them the bigger meanings of, and nothing that we're doing is so far out there that no one's ever heard it before, but it's like, it's written down. You don't peel over the trash can, right?
Yeah.
You peel onto a sheet tray,
Yeah.
right? And then you put that in the trash or the compost or the recycling or wherever you're putting it. But it needs to be detailed, because otherwise you're going to go find them peeling over the trash can because you never said anything. Or if you do, then you're like, we discussed this, right? So that's the initial part, is getting everybody somewhat on the same page and trying to hold them to account.
So there's like a baseline of culture.
Baseline of culture,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I have, there's me, there's the CDC, there's the sous chef, trying to create a baseline of culture. So we have a secondary training thing that's based on what their lanes are, what their jobs are, and trying to create their culture so that they will be there in the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen all the time, or I'm at the restaurant all the time, putting forth my, whatever it is, ideas of how we should be working on things. But if you're trying to do that by yourself, it's never going to work. You're just going to turn into dad who's like, oh, dad's talking again. Yeah, okay, whatever. You have to have a team of people that are backing you up to keep the cooks in line. So keeping those guys up to speed and trained on the why and the how of what we're doing and why we're doing it is the second step. And then I am the dad in this scenario, because I am constantly coming in and saying, hey, if you want to get anywhere, then you're going to have to make these steps. I have a lot of little quippy sayings that I say all the time that Jess hates hearing, because she's heard them so many times and she probably just hates the sentiment of them at this point. But like I say all the time, there are no old line cooks.
Yeah.
Like, you have to think about moving up. And how do you move up? So just to start those conversations. To be able to move up in the kitchen, you have to be able to do the basics of cooking. After that, then you're a line cook. Fine. You can give me what I asked for and what I taught you how to do over and over and over. That's great. To be able to move up into even a lead line cook position, you have to understand more about how the kitchen works and what it takes to get to that position. Well, what it takes to get to that position is understanding what your boss, whether it be your immediate boss or his boss, what do they want? It's very simple, and it's an oversimplification, but I've been saying it for years. Figure out what your boss wants and give it to them. Mm-hmm. So what does your boss want? They want better, cleaner plates. They want they want your station set up at the same time every day. They want the 4 o'clock breakdown. They want family meal up. They want family meal to be good. You start being the person that's standing next to somebody, and whenever they're doing something and they go to be like, oh, you're standing there, you go, you need this. You're looking for this tool. Here's a hotel band chef.
Right. That cadence.
And then you say, and then it's a simple process of understanding the person that's ahead of you and what they want, and then giving it to them. And it's a two-sided thing. Then your boss is starting to say, well, every time I turn around and I'm looking for something, there's that dude there again, and he's handing it to me. He gets it. That kid gets it. But also, being that kid, when you're trying to think like your boss, then and put yourself in their position and figuring out the why. Why are they making these decisions? What do they want? I'm putting myself in their shoes. Well, the natural trajectory then is you're starting to think like your boss. You're starting to think like the person above you. So you're now on a path to becoming that person. If you don't think about what your boss, what your sous chef wants, and what your CDC wants, and what the chef wants, and what the owner wants, you're never going to get there. You're just like, oh, I'm just an independent contractor over here. You know, I put up the food. I don't know why I never get promoted. It's like you're not promoting yourself, and you're not training yourself. So much of it, of cooking and all of it, is on you to put yourself in a better position. Everybody wants a mentor, right? People come in all the time. They're like, I'm just really looking for a mentor. And they don't understand what they're asking for. They're basically telling me that I want to come here and I want you to take time out of your schedule to come over here and teach me things, instead of thinking of it like, I want to work here and I want to do my best to get into your head. You don't have to do anything. And you being me, like, I got enough things to do where I don't need to also make a whole training plan and mentorship. Let's have a meeting 30 minutes a day to talk about how you're going to get better. That's not reality. You, as the employee and the person that wants to get somewhere, have to be trying to just observe what I'm doing and getting things out of not only me, but the cook next to you and the sous chef and the chef. I tell the guys all the time, another one of my quippish, stupid things that I say all the time is, I learned everything. All these cool things that I know how to do, that where I can still be a 50-year-old man on the line and outcook every single one of you guys, I stole from the guy next to me. I would be there cooking and I'd be watching them. I'd be like, ooh,
Right.
that's cool.
Right.
I'm going to put that in the, got it.
And I'm exactly the same way. Whenever I'd see a technique that I'd never see before, it's the first thing I was like, what's going on here? Because when you're in a kitchen long enough, you got a pretty good baseline of how kitchens work, how people do things. And then all of a sudden someone does something like, whoop, what did you just do right there? I've never, going back to what you're saying, I've never seen anyone peel over a parchment paper or a cafeteria tray. Why do you do that? Why not just peel over the garbage bin? Well, because if it falls in, you're gross, or you don't care about food costs. So which one is it, right?
Exactly.
There's only two reasons why you would peel over the garbage bin. But you when you see someone behave different, is like, oh, that's different. Where did that come from? I'll absorb that into my repertoire right away. Oh man, this is I'm fascinated by everything that you're saying right there. One of the conversations that I had recently with someone, we were talking about the cooks coming into their kitchen, and one of the struggles that they have is a lot of people that are coming into kitchens right now, they are in it for one. They're in it, and while everyone else is working on service, they're like working on their special that no one asked them to work on. It's like, what are you doing over there? It's like, no, I have this. I want to show you this dish that I have in my head. And what I've noticed, and I played sports, and gym culture, and sports culture, you learn that it's about the team. And I think a lot of people sometimes struggle because they've never played a sport in their life and they've never been on a team in their life. And then they come into the kitchen and they think it's an individual sport, and it's not. I'm just curious. Do you see parallels with that?
Yeah. Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. I think that being an athlete, I was an athlete.
Oh, you don't say.
I was an athlete.
You don't say.
I was an athlete. I actually was a Division I athlete at UT. I was a rower, and I walked onto that team. And I went from playing sports as a young person in a rural town and being pretty confident because I had not a whole lot of competition. I was, tall, and I could kind of fit in it because they would just be like, you're tall, and so you made it. Whether or not I was good at the sport or not. And so when I tried out for the team and made the team at UT, I started with a coach. It was they're called the novice team when you've never rowed before, who was very positive, had come from California, was a real cool guy, had nicknames for all of us, was fostered like warm, fuzzy feelings with the team. And then I graduated to the real team. And the coach was terrifying, a woman who had been in the Olympics multiple times. I tried to talk to her about my feelings and she had no interest in my feelings. And I had to learn very quickly how to manage my own feelings around the work, like how hard I felt everything was. So I thought that was, and I could go on and on about different styles of teamwork. Being in a boat, there's nothing, you cannot be an individual on a boat. You have to do everything exactly the same as the person in front of you in order to be successful. You have to like drop your oar in at the same time.
You can't work on the new technique that you just thought of.
You can't work on the new technique. You can't pull harder. You can't pull less hard. Everybody has to pull the same, or the boat turns, or what, there's a lot of variability just in like the individual that you really have to strive to be working just exactly the same as the person is in front of you. And so I went through, and it is a very hard sport because you can't stop, you can't take a break, you can't, you just have to go once you're in it. So when I moved out of college, moved out of rowing, decided I wanted to cook for a living, I had at that point learned how to manage my own emotions around my feelings and understand that there was reward in doing hard things, as our grandparents and our parents told us. Sometimes that is the reward, is the satisfaction you get from having done a thing. And I saw in a kitchen I saw a lot of parallels between how hard it was to work in a kitchen, because I apprenticed. I didn't go to culinary school, and I had to teach myself a lot of things, and I had to be taught a lot of things. And I was one of those people who did not ask people how to do stuff. I would cut the end of my finger off and I wouldn't tell anybody because I was like too embarrassed that I had made a mistake. So I spent a lot of time observing people, and it was hard. And then I moved, up in kitchens where there were bigger teams of people. And then I moved to New York, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, it's like going from rural high school basketball team to Division I rowing, where suddenly the stakes are a lot higher. And not only was the environment a lot more intense, because it certainly was, but the amount of time on my feet was, even as a person who had been exercising quite a bit, up until that point, I was not prepared for what it would feel like to be on my feet for that long. So I had to adjust. I just had to adjust my attitude. I remember there was someone I was working with who was a captain at Bouley, and she had worked in pastry, she had worked in the kitchen, and then she worked in the front of the house, and all as a goal to open her own restaurant, which she has in Mexico City, one day. So she just wanted to make sure that she got all of the experience that she could get working in a restaurant. And she could see in me that I was exhausted. As I started working, I went from working during the daytime and doing prep to working at night on the line. And she just said, it's gonna take a couple weeks. It's gonna take a couple weeks, but you'll get used to it. It's like, I don't see how. It feels like my legs are just gonna pop off, like Barbie legs. I'm like, this is terrible.
How did being working with a team though relate to some of your first kitchen experiences, especially going into some of the teams that you were on?
Well, I mean, on any team, there are different personalities, and you're not always going to gel with them. But recognizing that everything is, especially in timing with putting food up. I mean, everybody and I know this from, there was a little bit of it in the restaurants before I moved to New York, but as I got to New York, it is really about calling out, hey, I'm going up in this long and I need you to be up in this long, and you just, the actual physical nature of the work is very much like a sport. You're moving, your body is moving constantly, which is what really attracted me to working in a kitchen, and not just as I loved cooking and I loved eating and I liked all things that are about food. There are many different career choices that you can do with that. But what I liked was the movement of it. And I liked the flow with the other people that I was working with. Working in small, now, since that, now I worked in a couple of restaurants that were big restaurants where there was a team of us that were working together. to put up food, during service. But then I kind of graduated to smaller mom and pop restaurants, which is where I had started when I was apprenticing. And then I was an island. I was, the captain of my own team of one. And it's just not quite as enjoyable. I mean, I certainly love getting the work done, making a list, accomplishing the tasks. But I think that there's something about like working with a team of people in a kitchen that makes you feel like you're working towards every single night, every single week throughout the year, you're working towards a common goal and you're accomplishing it together. And this is, where I think as a restaurant owner now, when I think about when we opened our restaurant, we're like the tip pool. People have been pulling tips for a long time, but they're not necessarily understanding what that means. It's like we're all pulling towards this one big pot of money, We all have to put in the same effort towards it. The people in the kitchen are also pulling towards that. We're all moving in that direction. And you can see in the restaurants that I have worked in places where it was more like the independent contractor mindset, where you're like, I'm here to make my money, versus the people, and there's a real rift between the front and back of house. But when everybody's sort of like included in that process, it definitely feels like, hey, we are doing this together. That last guest came in 1 minute after we were supposed to have stopped seating people. Well, we're all in this together. We're still moving in a positive direction together because we're all going to benefit from it. Anyway, I think that athletics, and so this is where there's, for me, I am still an athlete. I run races. I don't work at night anymore. And I know that there are run clubs where people are working at night and then going and running the next day. And I'm just so impressed by them because it is, but they're working through things and they're doing it as a team, they're getting up and they're enjoying that community aspect of it. And I think that the people who are working in restaurants and still participating in some sort of like athletic endeavor, no matter what it is, if it's climbing or swimming or running or walking or whatever it is that they do, skateboarding, and they just, first of all, they're probably getting their endorphins. They're a lot happier, but it's the same sort of community feeling that I get in athletics that I get in the kitchen. I feel like, you're talking, you're working, you're multitasking, you're able to accomplish both things at once. You're getting to the end of your day. You're like, we did that. You're tired. Tired. You're unwinding. You did that together. But, I think that it's, I don't know that I would have lasted in kitchens if I hadn't been an athlete.
Yeah, I could imagine. And there's a structure and a hierarchy in sports, like yes coach, yes chef, like a lot of that translates over. If you know how to take direction, it's a good thing.
You know how to cook. That's not the problem. The problem is getting your team to do what you want, when you want it. That's leadership. My book, Culinary Leadership Fundamentals, breaks down exactly how to run a kitchen without losing your mind. Stop yelling, start leading. Get the book at chefspsa.com.
So how long has Lenoir been open now?
14 years.
That's a long time. Congratulations.
It's a long time for a
Almost
restaurant.
15. I mean,
Almost 15 years.
Yeah.
we took over the lease 15 years ago.
Yeah. What's it like? Like when you think about longevity in the restaurant world, that's almost unheard of. That long, 15 years.
Yeah, it actually got past. We had like a 5, a 10, and I don't even know that we had a 15-year plan.
Yeah.
And
And
it's-
congrats,
we-
by the way, on the Michelin recommendation.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've eaten many times there. It's a great restaurant.
Thanks.
It's one of the first restaurants I ate at when I first moved to Austin.
Oh,
too.
really?
Yeah, it was one of my where did we go? So I moved here in 2014, and there was a short list. It was like, it was like where Odd Duck, Lenoir, and I think Key had just opened.
Key,
So those were like my three first meals in Austin,
yeah.
and Uchi, of course.
Yeah, to your point of the 5, 10, and 15, the unmade 15-year plan. The thing that strikes me is that it's changed. It's constantly changing. What the restaurant started out as was one thing. People come and go. We're the only constant. Well, us and Clinton are the only constant in the restaurant.
Alma.
Oh, in Alma, we have 2 people that have worked there since day one. Have said they've been there for 14 years. Clinton took a little break. Alma did not. But it has morphed, and I think that I can only speak to what it's like for us. We run a very weird type of restaurant, but there are restaurants, I think in most of the restaurants that last this long are places that start out as a solid concept that might be more feel classic even when it opens, and it maintains. You don't change things. It's a steakhouse. It's a bistro. Things don't morph and change. We started off with a very specific style of menu, like a weird pre-fee that we came up with that was a little bit new age pre-fee. Then we changed to a la carte and the pre-fee, and then we started a chef's choice, and we're thinking of toying with the idea of becoming a tasting menu restaurant, and then COVID happened, and then we were a to-go restaurant. So the only constant in my mind is how much it's changed, and how much I constantly think about, well, how are we going to make this work?
How are we going to make it better?
Yeah, because that's all, standing in the past for 14 years. I don't stand in the past like I used to. So let's say standing in the past for 12 years, which I did every night pretty much. I would stand there and I would expedite. And in the meantime, you get those lulls in service. I would turn around and I would look at the dining room and I go, how are we going to make this work?
Yeah.
How are we going to make this better? How are we going to make this where it stays open, or what's a way to make this make more sense?
Right.
Because one of my newer quips that I use is, this is the dumbest way to make a living. Like, being in the restaurant business is like the silliest way to make a living. And so it's like I'm constantly thinking about the restaurant, and that kind of goes back to being a cook and being a chef. I had a cook that became a sous chef, and he's like, I want to sit down with you and I want to talk to you about the creative process and how you come up with dishes. And I said, it's really easy, because he had made a dish and I didn't particularly care for it, and then I was like, let's tweak it and make it into something more like this, like the next day or 2 days later. And it turned out to really work better in that new way. And he's like, I need to work on my creative process. And I said, the creative process, I can tell you, all I do is I just think about it all the time.
Yeah, it's that easy.
It's that easy.
Yeah.
And that's the same as cooking and becoming a great cook, is not only thinking about it all the time, but doing it all the time. And while you're doing it, oh my God, thinking about it. Like, I'm cooking this and what's happening with it, and understanding the process of the things that are happening in the pan while you're cooking, while you're turned around and your back is to the stove and you're cutting something, or you're finishing this over here, you're listening to what's happening behind you, and you're, oh, that's over reducing. I can hear it, right? That's the process for not only being a better cook, but also being a better restaurateur. Probably is just, it's constant thought and constant iterating and reiterating and doing it again and thinking there's got to be a better way.
Well, and the constant at our restaurant, I think, is just the warmth and hospitality of the front of the house. I think that our front of house staff has consistently been very warm and disarming, because it's casual service, but it's still thoughtful service. And I think when we're hiring people, I always talk to them with their front of house interview about how if somebody goes to a restaurant and they have really, really wonderful food, but not great service, they're not going to come back. But if they have pretty good food and really great service, they're definitely coming back. So it is, I think the thing that we have done over time, and we don't often pat ourselves on the back, because it's hard to, because you never feel like
you never won the race, right?
Yeah, you never
You're
won the
always
race.
just doing
But
it.
the thing that I think that we've done really well as owners is we've been really hospitable to our staff, and we've created an environment that they're also hospitable. We're modeling the behavior, because we're not going to be perfect, but we're sure as hell going to be nice.
And all those, and all the different iterations of menus and concepts, and going from tasting menu to something different to go. Was there ever a point in all of that you say, that was it, and we just flowed. And I would like, if you could, lightning in a bottle. Was there ever a menu or a style that you like? This was the most enjoyable moment in the history of the restaurant.
No.
I think
No, there's
sometimes we
always-
look back at the way that we served the food. Probably you might have been there in 24. Yeah, you probably
Yeah,
were there in
in
2014 when we
was
were doing it. I thought it was a very
menu.
creative idea, but it was it became to us a little dated, but it was where you could choose 3 dishes for a set amount,
Yeah.
for a set price.
Yeah. I remember. It was great.
And you could mix and match however you wanted and then get an extra dish for an additional price. And it was very inexpensive, and it was meant to be, allow us to make sure that we had, because we had so few seats in the restaurant, to have the money that we needed to be able to pay our bills. But over time, we just sort of felt like that wasn't how we wanted to dine. So we didn't really want to have that style of restaurant. I will say, just, now in reflection, we've got, 14 years under our belt, and we opened a bar next door, and that bar to both of us feels very comfortable. We're both like, yeah, I really like this place. And it speaks to us for like the things that we enjoy.
The moment that I moved to Austin, and I remember going to the store, Metier, right? And sorry, I was like, well, who's a Metier? And I remember just thinking, because I was coming from Dallas, and I remember going to the store and seeing all the cookbooks and the obscure ones and the magazines and the tools. And it's like, oh, I don't need a
Vintage barware.
It was so cool.
It was
and
so
then
random.
you had the it was like a job board where people would write who's
on
hiring.
a piece of butcher paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And occasionally I would write, well, I'm hiring for this. But I was thinking about that. I was like, man, I don't know if people, I know how much I appreciated what you all were doing. Is like, I'm not sure if people fully understand the impact of how much that moved Austin forward culinary wise.
Stop it.
Well, you think about it, it was like it was the first place where it's like, hey, you can't go to Barnes and Noble and get these books. No, you can't. You got to order from JB Prince to get these tools, or
Yeah.
And good luck,
Yeah.
right? Good luck, getting them. The job board was like genius, because every single cook in Austin was always
coming
going
in
through
there.
there and looking. And
Yeah.
what you all did, I got to say, it was incredible. It moved the city forward. And I just remember thinking, like, everyone needs to be doing this. I was in there like window shopping all the time, just like, I'm just going to go look at books.
Well, that was our favorite thing to do. So we decided to open that because in New York, it was kind of a combination of the stores that we loved in New York, like Corinne and Broadway Panhandler, which was more of a home cook, but they had the cool cook stuff in
Arts
there.
and Letters.
Kitchen Arts and Letters, JB Prince, like all the things that we relied on. And, those aren't even things that about when you get to New York. You're like, they're hidden in little. JB Prince is hard to find. Somebody has to tell you that's like on the 11th floor in this unmarked building. Like,
Right.
it's not a storefront.
Yeah, the idea of Metier really came from this. Whenever we were leaving the city and lamenting, like, man, what am I going to do to get knives? I'm not going to be able to go to Corinne. I'm not going to be able to go to these places and get the things that I like. But at that point, it was kind of at the same time of the advent of really being able to get things online.
Yeah.
And so we came here. I was like, I'll be able to order everything online. And then I started ordering knives online. I would get a knife I had never held before and never seen in person. And then I would get it. I'd be like, yeah, I like this knife. I like this knife. And then I would realize like 4 months later, like I never touched that knife.
Yeah.
And it's because you have to hold it. You have to feel it. You have to feel the weight. You have to feel the spine and go, this is rough. I don't like the fit and finish on this thing. It's thick. It's not thick. And we realized after time that the things that you really need, you need a place you can buy knives. And it's the same thing with a cookbook. I would order cookbooks online. I'd get them like, this cookbook sucks.
Yeah.
And it's because you want to go through it and be like, oh, okay, this is speaking to me. I'm going to buy this thing. And then there just was no place, like you said, good luck with JB Prince. Like there was no place if we were hiring a cook and I'd be like, this is your gear. You have to have a Kunz spoon.
Yeah.
You have to have a fish spatula. You couldn't get it. They would get it a month later. And by that time, it's like, you've been using my stuff and lost half of it or whatever. And it's like, it's a bad place for people to be. And people, it's probably the number one thing that people bring up to us.
It used to be in my onboarding. I would give people a shopping list when they would get hired and say, here you go to Métier and get a fish spat, get your spoons, get your whatever. I don't remember what was in there, but and it's like, you get your cake tester and shop around. You might find a nice apron in there. You might find, it was great. It was a great store.
We tried shoes. That was a really bad idea.
It was amazing, but that's where the bar is now, right?
Yeah.
So normally when we wrap up the show, I got a couple of questions. So I'm curious what your answers are, because I mean this in the most positive way. But you're a bit of a food nerd like I am, like a kitchen geek, of the way things are done. Like you're talking about, working, peeling, that's how I think. Do you fold your towel a certain way?
Yeah.
All those things to me are like ultra important, and because I think everything's important. So with that being said, are you a blue tape or are you a green tape person, or is it something different?
So
there isn't a simple answer.
The simple answer is we use green
both.
tape currently at Lenoir, but we use yellow tape at Bonnie's because it's a different kitchen. So so we can identify like that's a Bonnie's thing because it has a different color tape on it, or whenever things, because there is also a shared walk-in. So if there's things that are specifically for this place, they get a specific color tape, which you want to talk about nerdy stuff. That's probably about as nerdy as it gets, is having 2 different color tapes.
Do you use tape dispensers or scissors?
Dispensers at this point. It was scissors forever. And really, so it's always cut, right? But the dispensers have taken the place of the scissors.
Is it a diamond crystal kitchen, or is it a Morton's kitchen, or is it something different?
Diamond crystal for life. I don't have any tattoos, but I don't even understand the Morton's thing.
At home too.
I've been, I've done consulting in places and worked in places, and they'll have Morton's there, and I've never seen so much inconsistent seasoning, and it's because I'm like, you're putting boulders of salt on this food. I do not understand it. Now, I did hear somebody on your podcast say the other day about seasoning sauces with Morton's, and then kind of everything else with Diamond Crystal. And I learned this. Was that a Bouley? It must have been a Bouley thing. Like specific things had specific salts. So, and I actually do prefer like the Baleen sea salt for fish, and then Diamond Crystal for meats. That's how. We don't always do it that way because space is a big issue for us. Our kitchen's probably 200 square feet. So, but that's my end all be all.
What about your plate wipes? Do you have a specific plate wipe process?
Yeah, we have cut linen-like towels, and then we have what's essentially like a makeup cleanser dispenser that you push on it and it sprays up, and we put vinegar water solution in that, and go through.
Kevin Fink was telling me the same thing. That's exactly what he uses too. I'd never seen it before. He's like, no, you guys.
It's good because I had gone from where you would roll up your linen likes and you would and you would moisten them and you would hold them. But those are the good part about that is that they'll last you for a while, but you start to get dirty quickly, especially at our place because we have some saucy stuff and we have some things that are a little bit messier plating wise. And then you start to realize like, I am going back to this thing and it really needs to get balanced. And with this, it's like you get kind of 2 wipes out of it and then it's gone. And then you get 2 more out of it and then it's gone. And you're not really going back or trying to, I can get, 4 more plate wipes out
But
of
those
this
linen
one.
likes are big when you fold them out. They're pretty large, so
Yeah.
you can get a lot of different options out of them.
Do you have a Mount Rushmore? 4 chefs that should be on Mount Rushmore.
Oh.
Who are those 4 chefs?
I got 2. You got 2?
What?
You want to split it up?
I mean, they're going to be the chefs that I worked for, right? Like,
They can be whoever you want.
I definitely think one of them should be Greg Kunz. I worked for Greg Kunz, and he was, I think, very influential. But not only that, he was super kind, and I think that he was a chef who would connect with the people working for him. He was demanding, and he wasn't intense. He was just demanding. He had ideas, and I think that he should be on there because I think he influenced not only a lot of the people of his time, but subsequently people since then who felt like
Legend.
yeah.
Yeah, who else? That's
And
one.
a spoon.
That's one.
And the spoon.
And the spoon.
And the spoon.
And we all had to have the spoon. This was before they were selling them.
Yeah.
They had them at Cafe Gray, and we all had the spoon. So
Okay.
early.
You got a second one?
Nope. I'm gonna have to think about it. Who are your two? Floyd.
Floyd. From Tabla. It was the interesting thing because I didn't think about who you would choose, and so Floyd worked for Gray at Les Pinas, and then I worked for Floyd at Tabla, and you worked for Gray at Cafe Gray. He was an amazing person. So many great chefs. I am also a nerd of like the chef lineage stuff because it's self-serving because I've worked for great people, and so then I get to be part of that tree and be like, oh, I worked at the same place that this guy worked at, and we all got the same training and we're subsequently equal chefs, which we're not. But but I do like being part of that tree. Floyd was amazing. The kitchens were super clean, super organized. It was the place that I think a lot of people think that restaurants run like. They actually ran that way. They were quiet. They were clean. Everything had a process. If you got out of line, it wasn't like nobody got screamed at or anything like that, but you were brought back into the line very quickly. And Floyd also very demanding person, very nice. He was demanding because he looked at this as a profession. You are all professionals. You're expected to act like a professional. He came from a completely different world where he was, from India, and his brothers are doctors and lawyers, and he decided to be a cook, which was not a great idea in his family. Yeah. That was like, we have a cook at our house. Like, nobody's a cook. So he took a very big leap of faith. So it had to be a profession for him to do it for his family. And then he was a family man. He was great. He had two great kids and wife, and so showed that you could do both, be like a chef and have a family and be a good father,
householder, and
yeah. You learned a lot there. So that's two. So I would put Bouley on there certainly because
you got to.
Bouley is, for all his many flaws, which I'm sure have been documented, outstanding chef and cook, like great cook. Would come in and just blow us all. That kind of, me bragging about being the best cook at my place. It's different, when you're moving up the ladders and you get to the pros and the things get kind of consolidated a little bit. And that dude walks in and he is the best cook in that place. He's creating.
He's Babe Ruth on the Yankees.
Yeah. A guy was unbelievable. He would come in and he would just open up. Yeah, unleash hell on that place by changing things and moving things. He would come in with all these, fly in from Japan with a bunch of crazy ingredients that he had just bought and be like, put this on this, and just start doing things. And you're like, we're trying to run a Michelin restaurant here.
Who's the fourth? Did you come up with one?
I'm really not. I think the problem for me is that I don't categorize chefs, and I don't really. I know that there's somebody that I'm not thinking of. Oh, what about? Okay, so I'm just going to say this because I'm thinking of it. But we had one of our most memorable dining experience at Arsac in San Sebastian, and he actually came to our meal, and the meal was like very good. It was still in that sort of molecular gastronomy vein, but only a little bit, like just dipping into it. And then they, like the last thing that we ate was the thing that we were just like, what the hell was that? It was like little beads of warm chocolate pudding, ganache or whatever, like they had been spherized or whatever. And but they were warm, and they had the strawberry sauce. And we finished up our meal. Just before we moved back to Austin, we'd left New York. We're having this wonderful, like, 2-month long, like, Spanish walkabout. And he came to our table. We were the last people in there. He gave us a tour of the kitchen.
Oh.
Then we went out, and they had a little tray with 2 cigarettes for us. It's actually 3. It's actually 3. There was another chef with us who is probably people know. His name is Howard Kalishnikov. He has a restaurant now, and I had worked with him in at Savoy in New York, and he has a restaurant now in New York called Rollo's and something else. Anyway, he's an amazing cook himself, but he was with us, and like the 3 of us just had our cigarette after our meal, and we were all just like, wow,
A moment in time.
wow.
Where can people find you if they want to eat at your restaurant, if they want to follow you on social media?
Our social media, our Instagram handle is @Lenoir ATX, and our restaurant is just lenoirrestaurant.com. Bonnie's it has an unpublished website, but right now I'm like not really, that's not top of my priority list. But Bonnie's social media is at Bonnie's Bar.
Get the AI on the website.
Yeah, exactly. The Instagram is Bonnie's Bar ATX.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
This was
thank you
fun.
for having us. It
Thanks.
was really nice to talk to you.
All right, that's the show. If you liked it, make sure you leave 5 stars. Nothing less than 5 stars. If you want more Chef's PSA, go to chefspsa.com. Get yourself some books, get yourself some merch, including Culinary Leadership Fundamentals and the Line Cook Survival Manual. If you want early access to episodes, you can get them on Spotify and Substack by becoming a paid member. The link is in the notes. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No small drink in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction, stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, class is in session.